You're about to see something truly astounding. A discovery that's caused an absolute sensation. One that could have untold significance for every one of us. And not only that, it's a totally engrossing mystery story too. You're about to meet a family that shouldn't exist, a family like no other. They could just be the missing link between man and ape, the holy grail scientists have sought for generations. They're living, breathing men and women, but they walk on all fours, just as we did 4 million years ago. And until this film was shot, they were hidden away, unseen by the outside world. A remote village in Turkey. Here, hidden from the world, lives an extraordinary family. A family whose very existence could rewrite the evolution textbooks.
I was really fascinated. Here are humans doing things that they're not meant to be doing.
For the past year, their existence has been known to just a handful of experts who have been sworn to secrecy. When I heard of it myself, I was intrigued, but nothing prepared me for the reality. Now, finally, the secret can be revealed.
The immediate response I had was that I couldn't believe my eyes. I had never expected that, even under the most extraordinary scientific fantasy, that modern human beings could return to an animal state.
In scientific terms, it was the equivalent of finding living, breathing fossils. Human beings who had never made the evolutionary leap of standing upright. The quest to find out why took a team of scientists on an amazing journey and raised profound questions about what it is to be human.
The thing which marks us off from the rest of the animal world is the fact that we're the species which walks on two legs and holds our heads high in the air.
It's what defines us as human beings.
In many ways, yes, of course, there's language and all sorts of other things too, but it's terribly important to our sense of ourselves as being different from others in the animal kingdom. These people cross that boundary.
Professor Nick Humphrey is an evolutionary psychologist. He first heard of the family through a medical paper produced by Turkish scientists.
It looked as if we really did have something rather like a throwback in evolution, a turning back of the evolutionary clock. And the Turkish professor who invited us there, that's the way he thought about it. And in fact, others in the scientific community took up that line and said, yes, here for all the world is a genetic problem which has undone the last 3 million years of evolution, returned them to a primitive stage.
It sounded like the anthropological find of the millennium, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that scientists dream of. If the family prove to be true quadrupeds, walking on all fours, they may provide the elusive missing link between man and ape. Humphrey set out for Turkey with a scientific team to record his findings.
This is a very exciting moment for us. We don't know quite what we're going to expect from whether we'll really see quadrupedal humans. I don't know. It's never been reported in scientific literature.
Rajit Ulas and his wife have an astounding 18 children. 12 were born healthy, but 6 had a unique disability. This is Gulen. He staggers as if he's drunk, but he's not. There's something wrong with his balance, but he's still on 2 feet, not 4. Then, one by one, the other children appear. There are 4 girls and 1 young man. Hussein has walked like this for 28 years.
Very revealing for anthropologists, people who study early human evolution, because what these children have done is to reinvent or rediscover a form of locomotion which very likely does correspond pretty closely to the way our ancestors walked.
The affected children are aged between 18 and 34. They all still live at home, cared for by their brothers and sisters and their parents, now in their 60s.
So far as we knew, no other case like the one in front of our eyes had ever been described before. There were no reports in the scientific literature of adult human beings walking on all fours. And so we realized we had a major phenomenon in front of us to explain from a scientific point of view, but also, of course, a major tragic human story.
Fossils tell us we probably first became bipeds around 4 million years ago. Since then, we have become beautifully adapted for moving on 2 feet. So why, for the first time in eons, are human beings again walking on 4? There was a certain amount of speed that...
This guy, Hussein, can outrun me, yes.
Hussein can travel for kilometres like this. The skin on the heels of his hands is as thickened as it is on his feet. It's an action like that, is it?
No, they don't push on them at all. They actually just do lift on the heel. On a very soft or flat surface, they will put their fingers down, but on a rough surface, they don't let their fingers touch the ground.
The Turkish scientist who first discovered them believed the children had devolved. But Professor Humphrey suspects the problem is more likely genetic. The parents are second cousins and could have passed a faulty gene onto some, but not all of their children.
It's very bad luck that the children have inherited from both parents the same recessive genetic mutation.
Basic neurological tests confirm there is something wrong with their brains, but that still doesn't explain why they walk like animals. It's a scientific puzzle, but for the children themselves, it's meant a life of misery. There's hostility towards the family in the village. The local kids taunt Hussein.
They are being beaten up by the kids of the village, and they are not being accepted into the social circle.
So they're outcasts.
They are, yeah. They are.
The team takes the family to a local private hospital for brain scans. The results are examined back in Britain by anatomist Roger Keynes.
This is Hussein's brain.
There is something very striking which hits you immediately you see it. It's very clear that in the middle of the cerebellum here, what's called the vermis, it's shrunk.
The brain damage is the same in all the affected children.
Do we have Safia's brain here too?
Yeah. That's this one here. Same again.
Absolutely.
Very striking.
But the shrunken cerebellum is not enough to explain why the family can't walk upright. In a case reported last year in Italy, a young man presented without any cerebellum, but he could still walk.
It doesn't in itself account for their walking on 4 legs, because other children who have damaged cerebellum, even children who have no cerebellum, can still walk upright.
So again, the experts turn to genetics. In Berlin, German scientists think the answer lies in the family's DNA.
I think this is very novel because it has never been described before that people are able to walk on their 4. So usually I think the opinion was that this is not really possible, and let alone that it's genetic.
Professor Stefan Mundlus believes the Ulas family's blood may hold one of the greatest secrets of science, the gene for walking erect, the very essence of what makes us human.
It's the exciting part of it. We can, by describing this family, actually show that humans can walk on their 4s, and then this can actually be inherited as a genetic trait, and that is very novel and very unusual.
The Germans have already published claims of a breakthrough, upsetting many in the scientific community.
I think it's an extraordinary speculation, very unlikely to be true.
You don't accept that's part of the equation here?
No, I mean, everything we know about evolution suggests that no single gene will have been responsible. So therefore, damage to a single gene can't throw you back from being bipedal to being quadrupedal. There have to have been other things at work here.
There's more dissent in New York, where fossil experts squabble over the bones of Hussein and his sisters.
Most people.
He's the quadruped.
This is the
There's no
quadruped.
doubt there's a quadruped, and there's no, it's not the Angolian. Look at the size of this.
I'm amazed at the ease with which some of these individuals are moving. Particularly the guy is. It seems to be moving quite fluidly and with quite a lot of ease. Very different to a gait of a biped. To see modern humans with a modern human body form walking around on all four limbs, using their upper limbs as a form of support, is extremely interesting.
One of the remarkable things about the way these children walk is that they keep their fingers off the ground. They walk on their wrist, not knuckle walking like a chimpanzee or a gorilla.
Walking on the wrists in this way, so the fingers remain undamaged, is of great interest to the evolutionists. It may be the way our ancestors learned to move between coming down from the trees and finally standing upright.
It does.
It does seem a little more robust on the
Look
distal
at
surface.
the width of this, Ian. Compare the width of that. I don't care how you orient.
In an ideal world on paper, yes, I'd love to see those skeletons. It'd be really interesting, but, that's just not okay, ethically.
But at Liverpool University in England, another team has found a way to examine the skeletons ethically. And they are different to ours. Hussein's movements are identical to an ape or monkey, ideally suited for balancing on branches.
These people are not missing links, but they have shown us how our ancestors did behave. They have rediscovered a way which we would never have even thought about. Nobody had suggested that our ancestors are what we're calling wrist walkers.
But Professor Humphrey begins to suspect there are more basic reasons why the Ulas children never stood up. When they were babies, they crawled as usual, on hands and knees. Then, at around 9 months, they started walking on their feet and hands. With no local health service, no one was there to encourage the clearly disabled children onto their feet.
Why that happened, we don't know. Why nobody intervened, why they didn't do the simplest things they might have done to help them and to bring them on, as would have happened in Melbourne or in London or in New York.
Incredibly, no one had even thought to provide them with a $30 walking frame.
Within a few hours, there was an astonishing transformation. The children who had never taken a step upright on two legs were using this frame to walk across the room with such delight in their faces and a sense of achievement and of having suddenly made a breakthrough into the world they never imagined they could ever enter.
Before the scientific team left, it arranged for a physiotherapist to examine the children and installed parallel bars in the yard to encourage them upright. The possibility of walking gives new hope to the family.
Bak bir büyük şey.
A big thing, a huge thing.
Diyor keşke.
Hadja tells the team if she could walk properly, she could go to dances and meet a husband.
Yeah, she would love to go to her own wedding.
But unfortunately, the physiotherapist holds little hope that Hussein will ever walk upright. He thinks it's too late for him. Hussein's despair and anger are obvious. Only his friendship with the family dog seems to calm him.
I come away with renewed respect for the human spirit, for how human beings in the most disadvantaged circumstances can nonetheless triumph over their adversity, no matter what they have to do to maintain their pride and their sense of themselves.
Scientists still believe the Ulas family has much to tell us about our ancient ancestors. But life for the family must go on. And in January this year, Professor Humphrey's team returned to Turkey to check on them.
It looks as if, in the month or two since we made this very small intervention, you might think, all of the children are now to some extent walking independently on their back legs, which is both a wonderful thing for them and, how extraordinary that you can parachute into people's lives and make such a difference to them.
But there was no sign of Hussein. It was thought he was the least likely of the family to make progress. But then... they had come to document a missing link in our evolutionary chain and found another. The moment our ancestors stood up and became a man. Hello, I'm Liz Hayes. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.